So Will Wade is headed to McNeese.
No, Will Wade is at McNeese.
I mean, he's headed to NC State.
So Will Wade isn't going anywhere right now. He's got a tournament to go win.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, he was on some stupid show with a bunch of bros.
He's on some stupid show.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Some show, and they had him on after they beat Clemson yesterday.
Yeah.
And
it was the biggest upset yesterday.
Yeah, I thought this was great what he said, because how many times do we criticize coaches for just not owning the fact that you're leaving.
Yes,
you're going to a new job.
And so there is a report that Will Wade is the next coach at North Carolina State. It obviously hasn't been signed yet, but everyone knows. And normally this is around the time of the year where we'd get the Will Wades of the world that would say, well, I'm focused on my team right now.
Exactly.
I look, this is a great group of guys, and I don't want to be anywhere else, and I'll worry about that after the tournament. And that's a load of crap. And so, yes, as much as Will Wade is a douche, and he is, look at what he did at LSU, this was one of the more refreshing things I've seen in college sports in a while.
People obviously were talking about how is all of the recent speculation about you and NC State going to affect your players? Would it throw them off? How did you handle this with your players as you led up to the game?
We talked about it. I mean, we were in practice when all that happened. And you guys know, I mean, look, you interview for a job and then your attorneys deal with their attorneys. It's not like I'm talking to people I mean, we were in practice at Brown, and Mike Martin, who I've known since I was in the Ivy League, he came out in practice and said, what's up to me? He's like, hey, you're trending on Twitter. So what the hell am I trending on Twitter for? He's like, oh, they said you took the NC State job. I was like, oh. And then I got back to my phone and had like 300 text messages. And so, I mean, look, that had nothing to do with it. When we got that night, I sat down and talked to the team. We had already talked on Saturday. And I mean, we're honest. I mean, shoot, half the kids I recruited, I told them, hey, look, the goal is to go Power 5 after this year, and some of you guys can go with me. And some of you guys, so we all know what's up. And I mean, shoot, our guys, this was great for them. They're gonna have a lot of schools in their DMs tonight too, looking to pick them up, pay them. So it's a good.
Well, we keep saying. That's what we keep saying. What is up, though? Hold on. You said we all know what's up. So fill me in exactly what's up.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, we all know the deal. I mean,
he
the coaches
just won an NCAA tournament game.
No, here's what I mean. Coaches, you get an opportunity. When you win to move, and players, when you get an opportunity, you play well, they get a chance to move. I mean, it's the free markets at work. That's America. So it's I'm happy for everybody. But hey, we want to keep this going, and we got a great thing going, and see if we can keep this going another week.
Okay, there he is.
Yeah,
I don't know if you caught all that, but
yeah, it was a little jumbled there in the middle. But
he was breaking up.
There was I thought that was the most honest answer.
Yes.
And I don't know why more coaches won't just take the honesty as the best policy.
Right.
Because it is. Basically, if it was a little garbled there, Will Wade basically said he interviewed for a job. The reports are that he's going to get the job. And he basically went to his players and said, we all know what time it is. This is good for me. It's going to allow me to move up. And he told the players, some of you are going to come with me. I can bring you to a better school.
Yep.
And for those that don't want to go with me, by continuing in the tournament, you're going to have NIL options, or other schools are going to come find you. And I do like that under this new system, and some people may hate the fact that it's this mass transfer portal and teams getting gutted, but there is an element to now that I think most players, unlike the olden days when you thought, like when I signed at BYU, I thought I was going to be there for 4 to 5 years and I would have roughly the same coaching staff, right? There was a lot of stability there. I don't think anyone really does that anymore, especially in the world of college basketball. I think when you sign with a place, you understand, that is a year-to-year sort of thing. It's year-to-year for you. It's year-to-year for the coach. And it is a matter of what is the best situation for us individually, and what's the best financial situation. And hopefully the smart teams realize that when you come together and you play great and you go on one of these runs, that's how everyone maximizes their opportunities and maximizes their money. And so for Will Wade to come out and say that, amen for not doing the whole, well, I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Well, it's a good point.
Yes.
And probably one that people hadn't considered in this new era of college sports, that when a coach leaves a McNeese to go to NC State, that's actually good for pretty much every player on his team who's worth a damn, because some of them will go with him, and others will have other offers elsewhere.
Yes, and the ones that stick around and that have a great tournament run and do choose to stick around, there's more money waiting for them in NIL.
Yeah.
So this is, I just think that the college basketball especially, but football as well, it's just changing. I don't know if it's any better. I don't think it's any worse, though. But I do think it's changing and evolving, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as we have a bit of honesty and we stop trying to pretend that this is 1984, and we get these old coaches, or the old commentators that are like, well, back in my day, we stayed, and it was about the program, and it was more important than the individual. Well, cool for you. It's not 1981 anymore. It's time to evolve and move on, and you said it best. Everyone at McNeese off of this run will benefit from Will Wade on down. The better they play and the deeper they go will benefit every single member of that team. And there's some intellectual honesty going on. That way no one Jonathan Smith style, and that's what bothers me, is when Jonathan Smith knows a month to go in the season that he's going to leave to take the Michigan State job, and he slow plays his guys. You just got to come out at that point and be honest with your guys and be like, hey, man, I interviewed for a job. It's a great opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but if I do, this is the reality of what we're dealing with, and we can choose to rally around me, and some of you can choose to come with me. We can try to finish this thing off the best way we can, or if you guys want, you guys can go in the tank. I actually think it's better to tell your players that, because the message to your players is, this is your one opportunity we have as a group. Why do we want this to go in the toilet? Why can't we use this as a rallying cry and say, hey, one last time together, we're going to go on a run and defy some odds?
Do you think it's better for basketball than football, though? Because football affects so many more people.
Yeah.
Staffs and players.
Yeah. I think that the basketball, the fluidity of it is, it's more chaotic, but I also think there's more opportunity to change. One or two guys for a football program really don't make that big of a difference. It really is more about the collection that you can get, whereas in basketball, look at Drake, right? I think Drake is starting 4 Division II players that came with the coach and a guy that couldn't make the rotation at St. Mary's, and yet here they are, right? Football, that's not really the way you do it. So football, I think there does need to be more stability. It behooves you. But in college basketball, I just think this is kind of the model. It really becomes a year-to-year sort of thing, and you're going to have to learn to adapt to it. I mean, one of the things that Kansas is going to have to deal with is, you mentioned it, Kansas hasn't necessarily always been a big transfer program. They're more of a culture-building program. So Bill Self may have to adjust of getting 4 or 5 new players every year that he's not used to, but you better figure it out, because that's kind of the way college basketball is going.
Well, it's almost like a new skill set.
Yes.
I mean, so I listen to Self's press conferences because he's damn entertaining.
Yeah.
And so I've heard him talk about this several times, and he says it's just different to have to try to make it all work with such different puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Like this year specifically, he has 3 guys that have been there for 4 years. Mm-hmm. Like DeJuan Harris, their point guard, has played more games, I think, than anyone ever in college ever.
Yeah.
He's been there the whole time. But he's also incorporated, well, Dickinson was there,
but he came from Michigan
last year.
And then you had the South Dakota State kid and the Wisconsin kid,
but then he incorporated 3 more transfers, all wings, and he admitted, he's like, this is just a different.
Yeah.
He didn't do a very good job of it, first of all, and he's admitted that.
Yeah.
They just it hasn't worked out that well this year, but that doesn't mean he won't be better at it moving forward. But yes, it's almost like who's a good coach, and what it takes to be a great coach has changed.
It's evolved, absolutely.
And that, I think that's a lot of why you've seen the Boeheims and the Roy Williams and the Coach K's and
they're out.
Jay Wright even. He left before. Dude, that guy wasn't even 65,
that dude
was he?
saw the writing on the wall and was like, this
He doesn't want any part of that.
Because so many of those guys, again, are culture builders, right? It's
well, especially Villanova.
Exactly. The old guys teaching the young guys and bringing them through, and then, kind of having that system that you play in, or with Syracuse and the zone defense, right? It's like that is ingrained in you. And when you have to change over players that are used to doing things different ways, and look, I'm a dinosaur and I played a different sport, but the best year that I ever had at BYU, the year we went undefeated, was because we had it was continuity. we especially as an old line, we had played together for basically 3 to 4 years, everybody, and our depth pieces, and we had kind of grown and taken our lumps. And those guys, it was the funnest I ever played, and it was the most continuity I've ever had playing, and we were so good as a unit, certainly better than our parts, even though we were pretty good. And now I look at like Oregon or what Ohio State or these programs have to go through, where you're incorporating 4 basically new offensive linemen every year that are penciled in as starters. I'm telling you, you have to find an O-line coach that can adapt to that, because for me as a player or me coaching that, I can't imagine the challenge with and think about this in college, the limited amount of time you have to practice and be with those kids. I mean, it's an entirely new world that you're having to figure out at these two sports.
Well, how many new O-linemen did Oregon have this year?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Was it 2 or 3?
Yeah,
was it 2?
Well, all the interior guys. All the interior guys.
And look at the start of the season.
It was
a little
an
rough.
absolute mess.
It was a little rough.
And then once they got it figured out and they shuffled some pieces around, it became a really, really good unit.
One other thought on this. I wonder if, like, when you're Dana Altman... I wonder if you can start looking at this and going, well, okay, I've got a kid on the hook from, well, let's say McNeese.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he look for other kids from McNeese who are familiar with that player? Like, it's like they pick one guy from, however they scout.
Yeah.
But would it behoove you to look at maybe bringing 2 or 3 guys that are used to each other from the same team, even if they don't fit your scouting model?
Yeah, kind of like you look at Drake and what they did, bringing those guys over. That's actually not a bad idea.
I mean, I'm Dana Altman. Next year, I'm going to go get the entire starting 5 from who's having a good tournament. Who's making a run? Well, McNeese is up.
Yeah, McNeese
but that guy's going to take them.
Yeah, McNeese, or you take a team like Drake, or maybe someone from Xavier, Marquette, someone like that.
Troy's going to beat Kentucky, and the entire starting 5 from Troy is going to be at Oregon next year.
Go throw a bunch of money at him and say, come on down.
That's interesting. All right, well, go Will Wade. He probably is still a douche. I'm reading up on what he did at LSU, just to remind myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the worst thing ever, but he was under federal investigation.
Exactly.
So that's not good.
He was super defiant. He was the guy. He was the guy that decided that he was done being suspended.
That's right.
He told the school,
I love that.
I'm done. I'm back.
All right.